Hi Ross, lovely to have you here for our third podcast on Farming Web. It's exciting times because they actually seem to be going down quite well. What I'd like to do is to get you to introduce yourself. We're going to be talking today about IT solutions for talent acquisition, and I know this is sort of your bag, so to speak. So just really wanted to get you to introduce yourself. We can talk about some of the things, some of the topics that seem to be piquing people's interest, and see where we go from there. So, a little bit about yourself, Ross.
Thanks very much, Vince, and thanks for having me on your podcast. So, my name's Ross Pinkard. I've been with Icon PLC for 2.5 years now. Prior to that, I worked with a couple of RPO agencies, Randstad, Sourceright and Alexander Mann Solutions. And for the past 5 years or so, recruitment marketing and employer branding has been my focus area. As you mentioned, I do take a keen interest in HR technology and any other features and software that can help us perform our job better, whilst also prioritising the candidate experience.
Yeah, good. Okay, well look, the reason I wanted you to come on to this particular podcast is because I know you were at the LinkedIn Talent Connect meeting, and I was just wondering if you can give us some sort of highlights really as to what you saw coming up, what you thought was interesting, what was hot, what was not, that type of thing.
Yeah, certainly. So probably unsurprisingly, AI was the key theme, the key topic, and LinkedIn demonstrated their new AI hiring assistant, which was certainly well met by the audience. So that's probably going to be their flagship product in the next 12 months or so. In essence, it's going to perform many of the tasks which are currently performed by a recruiter, not necessarily replacing the recruiter, but performing screening candidates, creating your pool of job applicants and so on, and ultimately making the role of a recruiter a much more efficient and automated process.
Wow, that's fantastic. So are we saying then that it's going to buy the recruiter more time, so it'll take care of all the jobs that, suck up that time and allow them to actually do their job more efficiently, actually physically talking to people or interacting with potential candidates?
Yeah, that was one of the key selling points. It would take some of those more admin-based tasks, such as performing your search, reviewing your initial shortlist of candidates. So it's going to effectively perform your Boolean search, or otherwise pull out a shortlist of candidates, screen them against the position that you're recruiting for, and then give you what I guess you could refer to as your final shortlist of candidates that you can then reach out to. And going one step further, you can also use AI-assisted in-mail writing as part of LinkedIn's suite of products. So you'll start to see AI and automation much more visible across the process. Candidates probably won't recognise any change, but from a recruiter's perspective, a lot of these largely time-consuming tasks will be picked up by LinkedIn and freeing up their time to speak with candidates and be the role of talent advisor to their hiring managers.
Wow, that's pretty much what you need then, especially when a lot of companies are going down this skills-based recruitment strategy, thinking about what the actual business needs over a period of time. And then the other thing that I think you mentioned was something else that LinkedIn are doing. Is it AI agents? Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so AI agents, they exist in various formats, but the AI agents, which I think we'll see in the next 12, 24, 36 months, will be more autonomous in nature. So you'll they'll be set up to perform certain tasks and the work in the background. So the examples which we currently see or we're expecting to see in the future would be Tesla's self-driving cabs. So that's an example of an AI agent. That's not necessarily autonomous. You still need a user to direct it where it's going and a number of other aspects, but fully autonomous AI agents will be able to perform tasks simply from being set up and programmed to do so. It's very much a blank sheet of paper. There's so many different use cases that these can be applied to. And I think we'll start to see the likes of LinkedIn and other major players in the HR tech space start to explore the possibilities and hopefully bring some products to the market soon.
Wow, that's a bit sci-fi, isn't it? I think really. Jeez. Well, let's keep an eye on that as we go forward. One of the things that's come up a lot in a number of meetings that I've been in is this issue around fraudulent candidates and any technologies that can help with that process to deal with that issue more efficiently. Is there anything else that you've come across recently that you think works quite well?
There's no one solution to the increase in fraudulent activity within the job-seeking community. It's a combination of different tasks or processes which can help you identify a fraudulent candidate. So searching their digital footprint is probably the most common method which I've seen used. So LinkedIn, they would typically create a profile and you can see when it's been created, how many connections they have, their past activity. You can use tools such as ZoomInfo, which is certainly not the purpose it was built for, but you can see if that individual has internet history. So do they have profiles on other social media? Is it a profile which has been created in the past 30, 60 days? These are some of the methods which we use to recognise if somebody is authentic or if we have question marks around whether they are who they claim to be and the information on their CV is accurate.
Okay, yeah, I mean it's quite bad. I mean the latest figures we've got is around about 15% of people in clinical research applications are actually fraudulent, whether they're individuals or criminal organisations, and in some cases in biometrics, in certain countries we're up to 50%. Yeah, that's taking up a huge amount of time from your internal teams. What about tools like HireVue, which I know we've talked about before? How does that work?
So HireVue, on a basic level, is an interview and assessment platform where we would typically have the first interview over a phone call, and depending on the role and the location and other factors, they may be invited to use HireVue to self-record an interview or for that interview to be hosted and ultimately saved on the HireVue platform. So it's a hugely successful piece of technology. It allows you to harness the digital capabilities around interviewing just now. There's certainly a lot of benefits with the interview scheduling side of things. When it ties into the fraudulent topic, our interviews are largely recorded, so we can always refer back to them if at a later stage of the application process we have concerns about a candidate's legitimacy or authenticity. So whilst it's not a solution for weeding out fraudulent candidates, we leverage some of the features to cross-reference other data points, and if something doesn't add up, then that's typically the starting point for checking other sources to make sure that the candidate is who they claim to be.
Yeah, okay. Well, again, that leads on to the next problem then, doesn't it? Which is, there's a lot of generational differences out there where certain people don't actually like to go through the interview process. And I know some of the more senior people definitely don't like to do it and they're actually refusing. What's your view on that? Because I think it's, from my point of view, talking to people, I think it's absolutely essential now because, we're not asking people to travel distances and come in for interviews and certainly not initially. Have you come across that and how have you addressed that?
It's difficult to accommodate everyone's preferences. We certainly do our best. If candidates are comfortable with a video interview, then that's great. We have the technology to do so. But as you've rightly mentioned, it's not everyone's comfort zone, shall we say, to have that video interview. The face-to-face interviews, I would say, still do exist. So if we had candidates who we're quite happy to travel to the office and have that face-to-face interview. We would certainly make every effort to accommodate that. In instances where that's not feasible, we try to accommodate as many reasonable requests as we can. So whether that's a phone conversation followed by a more, I would say, structured video interview where you have the introduction and then perhaps you switch the video off. We try to accommodate everyone's needs where possible. Sometimes it's not possible and, candidates do drop out of the process for those reasons. So we try to be as flexible as possible, but it's difficult to accommodate everyone's preferences, especially in this day and age where there's a lot of remote vacancies and it's just not feasible for the candidate to make that travel to the office to meet with the hiring manager face to face.
Yeah. I mean, I think, unfortunately, as well, we live in, it's the way that things have evolved. I mean, I don't think you can avoid it. But I suppose the other thing that comes with fraud and the interview process and everything else is the background checks. And I think in the past we've talked about companies like HireRight and First Advantage. And I think the cost of a background check is like $9-10 or something if it's US based. I mean, that's quite a lot of money if you're constantly having to do that year in, year out, same checks. How are you finding that? Where do you see that actually going? Because I think in the past, thinking about it, I was thinking about, can you get an industry-based organisation to do those sorts of things, which I don't think you could because it's different in every country and every location. I mean, what's your view on that? Do you think that's just something that you're just going to constantly have to swallow?
For the time being, yes. It's a difficult challenge to overcome. As you rightly mentioned, a lot of companies work across various regions, various disciplines. There's no one global solution for that. So I don't see it changing anytime soon. If a company is recruiting in one country, I would say it's perhaps more feasible to look at a solution, but there's a number of various different data points that need to be checked as well. So it's a very complex one, and I think that's why there's so few companies that offer background checks, because you have to do it comprehensively. Otherwise, it's just not fit for purpose. So the likes of HireRight and First Advantage that you've mentioned, those would be the two names which I think most companies have used or will use. Beyond that, I don't really foresee there being any other alternative unless a government institution or an industry institution comes forward and proposes a way to verify the candidate's educational background or otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is it's just so many people in differently regulatory sort of environments, all doing different things, different countries, working across the globe. It's quite hard, isn't it? So I think, like you say, you're stuck with it until something else comes along. I'm surprised that LinkedIn, with the power of Microsoft behind them, haven't come up with something as a verification system or a registration system, but they seem to keep it as an open market, don't they?
They do have some degree of solutions, but I don't think they're all encompassing. So, for example, if a recruiter who works for, let's say, Google sets up a profile on LinkedIn, they can verify their email address, and there'll be a small area of their profile that shows that they're email verified. It's not very well known, that feature, so a candidate who's approached by a fraudulent recruiter claiming to work for Google probably doesn't know to look out for that verification check. That's one of the instances where LinkedIn have tried to address the fraudulent activity in their platform, but still happens. There's
always ways around it, isn't there? That's the problem.
Yeah.
And people are clever, The other thing I wanted to talk to you about, which is more around the employees once you've got them aboard, is around internal mobility, because we know that's going to be the key for retention moving forward. And skills-based talent acquisition strategies, I think, are the way to go in the future. It's a lot of management consultants talking about that. And it's all around, upskilling or reskilling people so that they're more adaptable for the business to go into different areas rather than being really linear. Are there any specific technical programs, software programs that help with development roadmaps or milestones or career growth that you're aware of?
Yeah, you would have different providers who offer a varying degree of options. So if you're looking at pure learning and development, you've got LinkedIn Learning, you've got Udemy, you've got Coursera. Those are just 3 examples. So all of them really good. I've used all 3 of them, and you simply input your interest. They'll recommend some courses for you. You work your way towards it, and you'll get recommendations for follow-on courses or related courses as well. So there's plenty of really, really useful options available for learning. In terms of that skills-based development, there's definitely options out there. So some of the ATS providers would have made concerted efforts to offer that as part of their platform. So the challenge which we've seen is people putting in their skills on the platform. So take LinkedIn as an example. LinkedIn, probably 5-10 years ago, you would almost self-regulate your skills. You would put that you have Excel or PowerPoint or Word as a skill on your profile, and other connections would verify it. Now they have inferred skills, so based on your private profile, your job title, your education, your employer, they would infer that you have a certain skill. So on LinkedIn, you would see a profile and there would be inferred skills listed. But it's harder when you look into the HR systems, because you're very much relying on the individual inputting what skills that they have. And then there's a question about validating those skills. If you don't have a certification, or if no certification exists, then how can you clarify or confirm that that individual has a said skill? So I think there's a lot of work to be done. There are solutions available. I don't know that there's a one-size-fits-all solution, but to your point, there will be, I think, a lot of work in that area to be more focused on skills-based hiring, as opposed to looking for somebody based on their job title or the company that they've worked for.
Okay. Well, following on from that then is another conversation I've been having with quite a lot of people recently is around data and metrics guiding what you actually do. And I know you're a big data man. I'm quite a big data man. I don't make any decisions without looking at, what's backing this up. Can you see, because of the technology and the amount of data we've got now that's sort of given us these metrics, can you see that really directing the future of, talent acquisition and decisions made by HR when you're looking at the sort of people that you need for the organisation?
Absolutely. And it should be used by any organisation today, any size or form of organisation, to have data which can form your decision-making process will vastly increase the likelihood that you're going to make the right decision. So some examples, if you're looking to recruit a new hub, let's say you're looking for finance professionals, you could lean on just taking LinkedIn Talent Insights as an example to really map out where those skilled professionals exist. So there absolutely needs to be database decisions made, whether it's future planning or reviewing past performance. So seeing which job boards you receive the most applications, the most quality applications, the most hires from. That would be one way to measure return on investment. And equally throughout the recruitment process, if that data is available to you, you can see how long candidates are spending at each stage. From that, you can identify bottlenecks. Is it taking too long to schedule an interview? Is the hiring manager taking too long to provide feedback? and are we losing candidates as a result? So at every step of the process, there's an opportunity to review the data and make meaningful decisions based on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely the way to go, especially as, the industry's changing, the way that we work's changing, and I think it can't be a finger in the air anymore. It's got to be based on, what we actually know. Okay, I think a final question from me, and we were talking about Avario around social media listening, which actually, thanks to you, we've deployed. Tell us a little bit about that. Why is it so useful?
So there's a multitude of social media platforms out there, some which I would say are more public than others, in the sense that your profile needs to be you as a person, your name, your personal identifiers. Others, taking Reddit, Twitter as two examples, they're a bit more behind closed doors. Twitter less so, but Reddit is very much a closed community where people can speak about topics without any sort of concern about being identified. So we've looked at social media listening tools for a number of purposes, but predominantly to find out what people are saying about the company. Is there anything which we need to be aware of? So we've got examples of fraudulent activity taking place thanks to these social media listening tools, which prior to that we probably wouldn't have been privy to. So there's a multitude of reasons why social media listening tools are very much worth their weight in gold. They can help you keep track of your brand, the perception, what people are saying about it. They can flag any instances of whether it's fraud or unsavoury actions that are being taken either by employees who pertain to work for the company or otherwise. And it's also a really good tool to keep abreast of what your competitors are doing as well. So you don't necessarily need to set up alerts for the company you work for. You can also set up alerts for your closest competitors, and through that you can gain actionable insights. So it's a really, really useful tool. We've seen the benefit from it immediately, and obviously delighted to hear that you've also done the same.
Yeah, well, we quite like it because obviously we like knowing what's going on in the industry generally. Up until this point, I used to use Google Alerts a lot, actually, and I still do, but I found that, proactively going and trying to find that information gives it to you a lot quicker. So, knowledge is always useful, especially when you have to make decisions about where you're going to go, where you're going to launch, all those types of things as far as we're concerned. Well, that's been fantastic, Ross. I mean, I know you guys at Icon are just literally all over it as far as, tech's concerned, probably more than most people. So some of these things are really good insights for people to just sort of think about and digest. Is there anything else, just as a sort of final roundup that you'd add that you've seen that you thought was good or you think might be coming, just as a sort of, a future view on things, really, I suppose?
I think we covered a lot of the current and future topics which we'll see within talent acquisition. I think it's fair to say we'll see a lot more AI and automation throughout the process, but it's important not to lose that human touch. We absolutely need to provide the best possible candidate experience. There will be aspects of it where you certainly wouldn't necessarily need a human, so interview scheduling is a great example where simply send a calendar link, candidate selects a time and that's it, scheduled. Outside of that, there are certainly opportunities for automation, whether it's background screening, offer letters, and various other administrative tasks, but those tasks which are likely to be automated, the intent is to free up the recruiter's time to have more quality conversations with the candidates and with their hiring team. So there will be more changes on the offering, but I truly hope and believe that they'll be beneficial for candidates as well as the recruiters.
That's great. Well, look, thanks, Ross. I really do appreciate you joining us on this podcast. Anyone listening, I hope that's enlightened you to a certain extent, and we'll try and put a list of some of these software tools on the bottom of the podcast so that you can go and review them yourselves. But thanks again, Ross, and let's catch up again soon.
Thanks, Vince. Appreciate your time.
Okay, cheers. Bye for now.